Okay, we're done. Cool. Is it working? Like everything fine? Okay. Good morning. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning.
So, hi everyone there. This year we wanted to try something new, so we'll be live streaming conversations with some of the speakers who we can catch today and like have a short chat together. Today I have Eric from Twitter with me today. Probably some of you enjoyed his session yesterday. My name is Ostap. I'm one of the organizers, and I'll be your host today. Hi, Eric.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah. I read in your bio that you have experience working with unmanned aerial vehicles.
Yeah.
Am I right? Like that's the correct way to pronounce it?
Yeah, I think other people just call them drones. The joke I like to tell people is I was flying drones before it was cool. So.
How did it change over time? Is it like that much different today than it was, I don't know, 10 years or 5 years ago?
It's different now. They're kind of just toys that you can play with. Like the quadcopters are just super easy to fly, and I mostly worked on like fixed-winged aircraft, so those are a little more difficult to fly if you're just a novice.
Yeah, but they can fly like longer distances.
Yeah, longer distances, higher up, and all that. Yeah.
Wow, that's quite interesting. So yesterday you had a topic. What was the exact name of it?
So my talk was entitled "Developing for the Rest of the World," and the goal was to give developers some tips for internationalizing their apps and growing their app, but beyond their local market. So like I'm a US developer, and so it was more with the focus like how do you go about reaching international audiences? And I think like Twitter, it's important because one of our goals is to like reach every person on this planet, right? And you can't do that really effectively if you can't reach those users using their language, using their culture, and kind of the environment they're in. So, when you localize your app, it really makes the users, it makes it feel native to them, to the users, and something that they recognize in everyday use.
Have you seen any like positive changes from translating the app? Like that you did this tiny change and you saw, I don't know, engagement rates growing or something like that?
No, I mean, by the time I joined Twitter, we already, 34 plus languages.
Wow, okay.
So mostly I kind of just focus on that part, just translating. We just focus on like, what's the process? How do you get started? And one of them was like, start small. So these are advice for like developers just getting started. You want to start really small. Pick one region, figure out what your process is. And once you have the process down, then roll it out to 5, roll it out to 10. And each step, have a retro and figure out what did well and what didn't work and just keep moving on and iterating. I think one of the things I talked about was emerging market performance and how your app performs. So if your app scrolls slowly, if images take long to load, that's where you see like improvements in user engagement.
How does the process look like inside Twitter for like translating languages?
Basically, I'm working on my feature. You put your strings in the. Yeah. I'm an Android developer, so you put your strings in the XML file. In my talk, one of the things is like just make sure you give context about what the string means. So, where in the app is it? What feature is it going to be used in? And then we just basically have a tool that automatically imports it. I'm lucky at Twitter, we have an entire team to handle translations for us. Okay. So once the translations are imported into our tool, it can either go out to like paid translators that are professionals, and we also have like a community place. I think you mentioned you've contributed translations to Twitter. So we open up to the community, and they can help improve the quality of Twitter. And then once that's complete, usually it depends. It's about a 1-week turnaround. And every Friday before we put out a release, we pull down the most recent translations in our app. The app gets built, and then we ship it.
Cool.
Yeah.
how much time, like, the problem we were facing in our company that, like, we're building an SDK, and I
Yep.
know that Twitter has its own SDKs, and the problem we have is that you can, if it gets out, it's kind of quite complicated to make the changes fast.
Yeah.
How would you, like, how much time can it take for you to update this, I don't know, mixed translation or tiny bug in translation?
Yeah, I mean, usually it depends.
Yeah.
It depends on how bad it is. Sometimes
Yeah.
you just kind of live with it and you
Yeah.
move on
Yeah, true.
and hopefully fix it. We usually only release once a month when I was working on the SDK. So once a month we would do our release. And if it was really bad, we could just do another one. I think the importance of getting it right, though, is that once you release something, people are going to start using it, and then they have to update their app, right? And so there's going to be this huge lag cycle to
Yeah.
where it actually gets into live. It's not like just releasing an app. As a as an app developer, I can just release a new app. But if you have an SDK, dozens of apps are using it, and dozens of apps are going to have that same error, and then dozens of apps have to re-release their app to fix your error. So I think that's one of the things I talk about is like, how do you avoid some of these pitfalls? And it's like having good descriptions, making sure your translators know the context of your feature and the app, and that way you get those good quality translations. You can avoid the bugs. And I think it's testing too. Twitter is an international company.
Yeah.
And you probably have people that speak Ukrainian. You probably have people who speak Russian and English and all
Inside
these
the
different
company.
languages. Yeah, inside the company. And so, you can enlist them to kind of help out and, make sure these things make sense.
Okay. Yeah, like that's what we also try. Like, we try to translate as much as possible on our own,
Yeah.
then give it out to translation companies and hear the feedback from community.
Yep.
How actually like the QA process at Twitter looks like?
Mostly engineers write their own source code, and they write their own tests, and we run them in CI. It depends on the team. Obviously we're a big organization. The Twitter for Android, we have a QA team, and so that QA team will, if we have a new feature coming out, they might have manual tests for it. They might write some tests, automated testing for it. So it really depends on the team and the organization at Twitter. But I think most of it is left up to the developers. We depend on developers to write tests for their code.
Twitter is a very big organization. Or like, how much people is Twitter right now?
I'm not sure. We're
Okay,
a couple
well,
thousand employees.
okay.
Yeah.
Like, I have never worked in a big organization like that.
Mhm.
And how does like the engineering process looks like in Twitter inside?
I mean, everything's like broken down into teams. So like, obviously you have like management, and they have like the high level vision of what we're going to build. But then the engineering teams, we each have like our piece. So on Twitter for Android, we probably have 40 plus engineers,
Okay.
but they're not all on one team. So we have a core team of engineers that works on like the database stuff. We have a core team, like dependency injection or networking.
Okay.
So all those core pieces of the app that everyone uses. And then we have Android engineers on the product teams.
Okay.
So they're embedded with their product team. So on a product team, you probably have web, iOS, and Android. So like DMs, that group that handles DMs is gonna have Android engineers on it. The Moments team is gonna have
Its own.
native engineers on that team, and then they all contribute into the main core base.
Like right now, a lot of companies think about UX and data you get from users. How do you like collect feedback from people? Like, do they like this feature or not? Should we change something? Like,
Yeah.
How does this data, feedback system works?
Well, I
Is
think
there anything like that? And
Well, I think one thing is everyone likes to talk about Twitter on Twitter. So
Okay, yeah.
you obviously hear a lot of feedback there. But we have like a user research team. So they go out, they meet our users. all over the world, and they listen to what their problems are.
Like
And
they go like to the country?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, they go, they go to India, they go to Mexico,
Okay.
they go to Europe and all these other places, and they try to figure out like what are the problems our users are having.
Cool.
And we have data science teams. We look at how our users are using the app,
Yeah.
and we use that to inform how we're going to change Twitter and grow.
Cool. How do you like the conference in general?
I thought it was great.
How did you
I love
hear
being
about the
here.
event?
Well, I was at Google I/O,
Okay.
and I was hanging out with one of my friends at Google,
Okay.
and Vitaly was a common friend, or knew this other guy, and he said, "Hey, come here. They have great coffee, and it's a friendly place to be." And I said, "All right, sure. I'll submit a talk, and we'll see where it goes." And it got accepted, and here I am.
What was, I don't know, in terms of audience,
Yeah.
what was the most, I don't know, interesting question for you?
I don't know. We had, I mean, I was just surprised there was a lot of interest in the topic, and a lot of people showed up, and this is probably one of the biggest dev fests I've ever seen in the United States. Most of them were pretty small,
Okay.
and this one was just super well organized with a lot of people. So that's what was really impressive to me.
Okay.
Cool.
Скільки часу ми вже говоримо? I'm sorry. How much time does it take? Okay. Yeah. What do you think? Like, what developers? Like, I was a developer myself.
Yeah.
I didn't think that much about translations, UX, all of that.
Right.
How would you, I don't know, train developers that, or teach them that UX makes sense, and thinking about translations, accessibility makes sense?
Yeah.
How do you find time for that and teach people?
I think just a lot of it you learn on the job.
Okay.
We have like designers and design team and people that think about this, and I think it's something that you pick up over time. Like you kind of build that sense of what works and what doesn't. Yeah, I'm not sure how you train it. It's something I've learned on the job.
Okay. Do you have any other, I don't know, commands in general, ideas for the audience? How to become better developers? And some final words.
Yeah, I can talk about that. I think, one question I've got is like, how do you get a job at Twitter? How do you get a job at some of these big companies?
That's a good question.
And I think, my response is, obviously we're looking for like really technically talented people, who know how to code and can execute on projects. But I think more important, there's other skills that are just as important as coding. So coding is one, obviously, right? We need that. But I think it's also looking for people that can work well on a team together. We don't want that, brilliant guy, but he can't work on a team with other engineers. So we want someone who's like a team player. We're also looking for people that like take ownership and pride in their product. So you don't just ship a feature and push it out there. You're invested in it. You're maintaining it. When bugs come in, you fix it. So we want people that have that ownership and the pride. And then just like looking for people who are self-starters. So if you see a problem, it's okay to complain about it. But if it's a problem like you keep seeing over and over again, we want people to say, hey, this is a problem, and here's a solution to it. So we want people to come up with these things, see that there's problems, and then like sell it to the rest of the team. Yeah. And to help fix some of these things. So, we're looking for more than just coding. I think these other skills are very important, and that's what I've been telling people. I think they're maybe even more important than knowing how to code.
Yeah, maybe. Okay, my last final question, which I just like kind of came to my mind. I've heard those big news that Twitter changed from 140 characters to 280.
Yeah.
How does this impact? Like, what's your own feedback on this? How do you like it?
You get to say more. What else do you want? I think I think the reason why is we were looking at cramming is what we called it.
Oh, what's cramming?
Cramming. So that's the number of people hitting the 140 character limit.
Ah, okay.
And we saw like in some languages, cramming was more common.
Ah, okay.
And so you just get more characters to say what you want.
Cool.
So I think it'll probably be a great feature.
Okay. Probably should think about tweeting more
Yeah.
than 140 characters. Okay, thank you, Eric,
Hey, thank you.
for the conversation. And hi, guys. Stay tuned today. We'll have more interviews coming during the day. Thank you, everyone.
Cool.
Yeah, okay.